Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Dogo Argentino USA. It's your host, Nicole. In today's episode, we are going to talk about feet. No, we are not foot fetishists, but how they relate to the dogo in terms of breed standard and also function. But feet actually should affect the puppy that you choose and the adults as you evaluate them. Now, feet have 5 components, of course. They consist of the digital pads, also known as the toes. You've got your claws. Now, claws actually share a blood supply from the bone and emerge from the bone. Dogo Argentinos have very, very, very strong claws. It's super important that you keep them well groomed and that you desensitize the dog by having them groomed regularly, because in my experience, their claws are like little daggers and they will 100% scratch the heck out of you if you don't take care of them. So I totally advise you, please get your dog used to getting their toes done. I start my puppies with toe care at day 3 of life outside the womb, and it does make a huge difference, but they're never going to love it. The reason they're never really going to love it is because, unfortunately, there they are out in the yard. It is natural for dogs to want to avoid you touching their feet, because a foot problem can be the death of a dog. See a little frustrated prey drive over there? See those challenge tails right there? That's because they hear that other dog barking. You have the dew claws. That's an extra claw, a vestigial claw to a certain degree. Some people think of it as a thumb. Dew claws are acceptable to be removed in AKC and UKC. I'm not entirely sure about FCI. I would assume so. Many people like to remove them. Some people leave them intact. The reason that some people remove them is because the toe can be very loosely connected to the leg itself, and in a working dog like the Dogo Argentino, it's not impossible to actually rip it off, and I've seen some terrible injuries that way. And on the other hand, I've seen hunting dogs that hunted for 15 years, had their dew claws, and never had a problem. But your mileage may vary. It's a little bit like ear cropping. Some people believe in it, some people don't. The metacarpal or the metatarsal, this is named for the bones that they cover. That's the triangular paw pad on the bottom of the foot. And it's very dense, very hard. Both the toe pads and the paw pads are extremely rough on Dogo Argentinos. Now, in Dogo Argentinos, the skin on their feet is extremely tough, particularly if you actually take them outdoors, which I encourage you to do. So it can be very rough. You can actually, if they rub their foot the wrong way across your arm, it can kind of hurt. The way their claws are so strong compared to other breeds. Okay, so let's talk about several different foot types and why you need to know. Okay, you have Hare Foot, you have Flat Foot, you have Splay Foot, you have Snowshoe Foot, you have Fox Foot, you have Polydactyl Foot, and of course, Round Foot, which is also known as Cat Paw. And let's talk about the development of these feet. It's important for you to know about feet because it's important in terms of evaluating the puppy, but also evaluating the adult dog. What you want to evaluate is based on the foot structure, not the foot size. The best way to determine a puppy's adult size is to look at the father and the mother. Now, the father and the mother both contribute genes that affect size, but honestly, the mother is much more important than the male. Why is that? Because the mother determines the size of the puppies, because those puppies are inside her uterus when she is pregnant. That's why if you have a German Shepherd male mate a Dachshund female, it's the female's genetics that control the size of the puppy so that she can carry her offspring. If a Dachshund female gave birth to a mixed breed German Shepherd size puppy, she couldn't carry it. So please stop evaluating based on the male's size. The male's size, he does contribute genetics, but it's actually the female size that matters the most. Makes sense when you think about it in terms of uterus size. So when you're looking at puppy feet, you want to look at both the mother and the father, because the structure of the foot is most likely to resemble either the dam or the sire, also known as the dog or the bitch. So make sure that you look at the foot structure. Now, there are certain things that affect structure that have nothing to do with genetics, and that comes into play in terms of exercise and the surface on which the dogs exercise. And we're going to go into that in a little bit, but let's start with the first foot type, the hare foot. The hare foot has two elongated toes, the two middle toes, and it's frequently found on dogs like whippets and greyhounds. And the reason is that two long inner digits allow the dog to achieve maximum speed in short bursts, but it is not the desirable foot shape for a Dogo Argentino, and I am going to have pictures in this video. So hare foot is undesirable, and as a matter of fact, I happen to know for a fact that there is a Dogo Argentino that has a hare foot that's frequently shown. The owner is very involved in showing, and I've never seen the dog penalized, but technically it should be because the hare foot is an undesirable trait. It is genetic. Webbed feet. While all dogs have webbed feet to a certain degree, webbing is more desirable in water-based breeds like the Labrador Retriever. And of course, the main difference is that it is a generally round shape, but the webbing that connects each toe or tarsus is a little more meaty and a little more webbed. And the reason that is because it allows them to swim with more efficiency. So all feet are going to be webbed to a certain degree, but more heavily webbed are going to be your water breeds, your Labrador Retrievers, your flat coat Retrievers, those type of dogs. Okay, so let's talk about splay foot. Splay foot is something that you should really look for in both parents. Splay foot means that the toes are literally spread apart. And splay foot is not a good sign in the parents. If you see splay foot in the parents, it can mean one of two things. It can mean that there is a genetic abnormality that has led to foot spreading, but the more likely cause of splay foot is that dog is not getting the proper amount of exercise on uneven surfaces. So if you go to a kennel and that dog is always kept, say, on cement, that dog will have its foot splay out, almost like melt. And that's not good because it won't have efficiency in working if it has splay foot. So that usually means that dog has not been exercised properly, but a few of them, they are genetic. There's no way to look at it and go, oh, it's this or it's that. You have to kind of know the conditions of the kennel. Flat foot. Flat foot means, just like it sounds, that the foot is literally flat. And there are two causes of flat foot, much like there are two causes of splay foot. One is genetic and the other is injury. Injury or genetics, it is very difficult to correct. And you can give some joint supplements and that can be helpful, but essentially you're probably going to have flat foot forever. With the exception of the Tibetan Terrier, whose breed standard calls for flat foot is a major fault and should be heavily penalized. It is really, really inefficient in terms of working. And generally when you look at major faults, most of them, but not all, are based on the dog's ability to work. And if the variation causes a less efficient way of working, then it's going to be heavily penalized in the race. Snowshoe foot is found in the Malamute for obvious reasons. It's a snow dog. Oh, there they go. Look at them go. Do we see anything over there? We don't. Foxfoot would be found in the American Fox Terrier, and polydactyl foot, which means many toes, is in one of the Norwegian breeds. So finally we come to the round foot, also known as the cat foot, and this is the ideal foot shape for the Dogo Argentino. The toes should be very tight together and the pad should literally be like a cat. The tighter the better. So why is this desirable? It's desirable for two main reasons. One, it allows the dog to grip very well on uneven terrain. And on a working dog, you want a dog that can grip on uneven terrain. And the reason that it's really desirable is because it actually causes the dog to have a more efficient gait. In other words, it causes the dog not to use as much energy to lift its foot off of the ground in terms of motion. And so the cat foot is highly desirable, and that is the foot shape you should be looking at, specifically again in the parents, because most things are going to come in the parents. When you have a recessive gene, it does happen, but it's uncommon. So genetically, when you're thinking of things, you have to think most of the traits that the parents have, the puppies are going to have. Yes, you occasionally get a recessive, but for the most part, you're going to get what the parents have. So if they both have round, tight cat feet, chances are the puppies are going to have round, tight cat feet. If they have hare feet, chances are the puppies are going to have hare feet, and you do not want that, because that is a fault. And the reason it's a fault is because, generally speaking, it's not desirable for the field in terms of heavy brush. It is a great attribute in a whippet who has an incredibly strong burst of energy that's really quick. So hopefully this will help you evaluate feet and help you look at the Dogo Argentino dog a little differently, particularly the parents. And in terms of flat foot and splay foot, I'm really hopeful that you will consider that it might be trauma, or it might be that those dogs are not kept in very good conditions, but I would be suspicious if either have splay foot or flat foot. So definitely uncool. Hey. See if we can't turn around here. There they are. They hear those dogs in the distance. They don't care for them. They don't like the cut of their jib. Anatomy, and how anatomy affects the Dogo Argentino's ability to work. We are going to discuss the paws of the Dogo Argentino and how those paws can affect that dog's speed, stamina, and ability to move agilely in the field. So let's talk about the Dogo Argentino specifically. The proper foot shape in the Dogo Argentino is known as the cat's paw. The feet are very tight. The toes literally look like the paw of a cat. And this affects the way the Dogo Argentino can work. Because if the Dogo Argentino has the proper foot shape, it allows it to easily navigate uneven surfaces, because the foot shape itself disperses properly over that uneven surface. And this is the important thing. More importantly is how little energy it takes for the dog to actually lift the foot in the air and move forward in its locomotion. So having the proper foot shape actually profoundly affects the dog's ability to work, meaning how much energy it takes that dog to actually move across a distance. And so when you have a hunting dog who's designed to run, who's designed to pursue game over uneven terrain in large areas, having the proper foot shape is very, very important. Now, when you are evaluating a puppy, you want to make sure that the toes are tight to the paw, and also you want to look at the paw shape in general. Hey, my neighbor is mowing, because that's just the way my videos go. So I am sorry about that. Hopefully it's not terribly distracting. So when you look at the shape of the paw, you want to make sure that it is the right shape, i.e. round or cat's paw, but also you want to look at the overall size, because it does very roughly correspond to how large the dog is going to be. It is not an exact thing. It's not an exact science. But if you have a little baby puppy that's maybe 7-8 weeks old, and that puppy has massive, big, hunkin' round paws, chances are that pup's going to be big. If the puppy's paws look more proportionate to the body, chances are that dog is going to be in standard. Again, this is not an exact science. Don't pick solely on the size of the puppy paw, because you will be disappointed. But it's a general correlation. You're looking for that efficiency of motion. And that's what most breed standards are designed for. It isn't about looking a certain way in a dog show. It's about the efficiency with which that creature can do what it was designed to do. So in our case, because Dogo Argentinos are fierce guardians and large game hunters, such as the boar, the puma, and the South American version of a pig, you are looking at an animal that's meant to be able to traverse uneven ground, because that was the nature of Argentina, to have incredible speed at the end when the fight was happening between the prey animal and the pack. And that's why we want certain things in the Dogo Argentino. Like, I hear all the time people mistakenly assume that having a very, very physically heavy dogo, not a fat dogo, but a dogo that's out of standard is a quote good thing. It makes it better. That is mistaken. And the reason it's mistaken is because mass is a caloric giant. If you have a lot of mass, meaning the dog isn't fat, but say maybe it's way out of standards, 120, 130, 140 pounds, that is far out of standard. That is a dog that shouldn't be bred. Because that mass, when it's running, it has to carry that huge amount of weight on top of being able to need the power to go in for the catch at the end with the hog. So if you have somebody who's breeding and they're bragging that their stud or their dam is 120, 130, 140, 150 pounds, that's somebody that doesn't care about the breed standard and doesn't understand why there is a standard. The Dogo Argentino is not a giant breed. Let's say it again. The Dogo is not a giant breed. It is a large breed, and giantism should be severely penalized because it makes it inefficient. It makes it have to work much harder to carry that muscle mass. So if you can imagine the mountain from Game of Thrones, that guy is not running anywhere. He's huge. He's massive. If you've never seen the mountain, you need to watch Game of Thrones because what? Dragons. Okay, so you need to know that in terms of a dogo, you're not looking for something to be out of standard. It isn't a bragging point to be like, hey, you know what? My dog totally doesn't conform. No, that's not what we want, people. No. You want dogs that are going to look like what the breed creator designed. And that is a working dog. That's a dog that's able to hunt. And dogs that are able to hunt, you really don't want them much heavier than about 110 max. And so foot shape is very similar in that you're looking for the best possible candidate that's going to maintain the best possible stamina. So I hope this helps you understand how foot shape really comes to play in terms of working ability and how breed standard in general is designed in order that the dog can do what it was designed to do, which is hunt large game, protect the family, be a good guardian. And huge shout out to a fan this week, Maria Clark. She has been super awesome. Hey Maria, how's it going? Thank you so much for your support of the channel. I appreciate it. Oh, I forgot. One last thing. Let me not forget. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. I appreciate all your support. I hope you are really having a wonderful, amazing, beautiful, dogo-tastic day. Ciao.